I only have 4 items.
No questions, adjourn.
The first item is school volunteers, policy 3.80. And basically this is a request to review the revision of policy 3.80. The policy adds section 2 regarding screening requirements and adds citations of 435.03 and 435.04 Florida statutes. This matter was discussed by the Policy and Forms Committee in June. The first citation is level 1 screening standards and the second is level 2 screening standards. Basically, the language states that a person who has been arrested and is awaiting final disposition has been found guilty regardless of adjudication, or entered a plea of nolo contendere, or guilty of a crime that would disqualify him or her for employment in the district shall not be accepted as a volunteer. So if they're still pending, they're still not able to be a volunteer. Are there any questions? Okay. Next policy item is policy 6.116, substitute teachers. This policy removes section 5. Any member of the Florida retirement system who has been retired for at least 1 calendar month from any state-administered retirement system may be employed as a substitute or hourly teacher on a non-contractual basis as the requirements for the Florida retirement system continue to change. So that language has been taken out. And the policy also changes the personnel office to the Human Resources Department throughout the document. And this was reviewed by Policy and Forms in October.
I forget why 5 had to come out. Is it now because of statute? Or?
Yeah, I think it's a moving target. I think they wanted to make
Okay. We just didn't need it to be in there.
It didn't need to be in the policy.
Okay.
And there are no citation changes.
So just for clarification, it doesn't mean we're not going to allow somebody. It just means we're going to comply to whatever the statute is, and if we can get them to work, we'll let them work.
It's my understanding.
Okay.
The next policy under revision is policy 6.25, staff ethics. This revised policy is to include all staff members as opposed to just instructional staff. This matter was discussed by Policy and Forms on August 21st. And it also strikes the language outside employment of support staff members. Outside employment or moonlighting of support staff members shall not interfere with his or her duties, responsibilities, or job efficiency. I think the intent there was not to single out support staff members, but to just apply the same ethical standards to all staff members. Any questions on that one?
I have a question on the back. Under B, is likely to receive compensation, or what is that next word?
Remuneration, which is also compensation, money, or something.
Remuneration, that's like payment. Okay.
And I just want to, and I think I know the answer already, but on number 2, it talks about persons being involved in selling instructions, materials, or anything else. That doesn't include like the book sale, if they're just there helping. It means that they get directly benefited from it. They can't do it, but if they help, they can. Or if they fundraise or something, it's just so they don't get the money themselves, right?
I think the intent behind this is that we're not selling instructional material that the school has acquired to provide to the student for free. I mean, Mr. Bradshaw.
This is number 2, or what will be number 2.
It's not a book fair issue.
Yeah, it's not a book fair issue. It's instructional material like textbooks.
I
But
published it.
It also ends up being an ethics violation because
Yeah, that's
you can't do
I have this wonderful guide to passing my class. Or my wife is selling a wonderful guide. to pass my class.
We can't do business with you.
Right. Any other-
Unless you're Pearson.
Unless you're paying someone on the table.
I only said the first part.
Any other
Gerard Pearson's birthday.
questions
He
or
is
comments
George
on
Pearson.
6.25?
She dated him in high school.
And the final
Go up.
policy is, this one is policy 8.502, pre-qualification of contractors for educational facilities construction. This is a request to modify the policy to comply with the state SREF requirements or state requirements for educational facilities to mirror that language. I'm under the impression that there were no statutory changes, but the SREF changed, so the policy needed to change at the district. And you can look through here. I mean, I'll be glad to go through it if you have questions, but it looks pretty self-explanatory.
It really tracks SREF.
Mhm.
Verbatim, there was a question I had about it, and I went back and looked at SREF, and it's in there, so. And that's all I had for policy.
Board members, anything else before he goes?
Chuck, we were just kidding about lunch. You did it fast.
No problem.
While Chuck's here, maybe just a quick thing. We're trying to schedule a workshop for impact fees. This is us to have the workshop just to update us, give us information. We have new board members that haven't maybe had the Duncan people in front of us. So what I was looking to do is, because we have a time frame involved, March at this point, our regularly scheduled workshop's gonna fall during spring break. So we were trying to then put what we need to in February. If there's, and I can go through some of the items with you, but we're gonna be doing some goal setting, some other policy reviewing, the CERMI update. I haven't told the superintendent, I was still gonna try and sneak in if we could to have our security conversation in the shade session, maybe somewhere in that day. But I was also gonna try and sneak in impact fees in the morning. Mr. Blocker?
That'll also start our monthly budgeting workshop.
And I somewhere I had in there, yeah, and we have that too, thank you, Mr. Walker. So I know it's gonna be, that day will probably be a long day, but if we do a lot of that in that day, then we could avoid March, which I was trying to
Are you
do.
talking about the day of the board meeting?
No,
Or
no,
the day of the work?
the day of the workshop,
24.
the
Yeah, I won't be
24th.
here,
Remember we talked
because
about
I'm
that
in
hearing?
a ESC due process.
But we can still do impact fee workshop, right?
You can do, yes, you can have your workshop whatever you want, but my understanding, you were going to go through 3 or 4 policies that I had drafted.
Oh, no, then we'll just
We
not
can
do
do those
those.
another
We'll do
day.
those another day.
We'll not do those without you. Okay.
We won't do, oh, no, we won't do those without you, Wes.
Going to do the advertising and posting input, so we won't do those, right?
Yeah.
And just to let the board know, unfortunately, your workshop days are falling into trial terms that I'm in, which the majority of them are in regards to the school district. So I'm kind of getting jammed up
Okay.
for a few months. There's nothing saying that you can't have your workshop on a different day other than the 4th Tuesday of the month.
Could we have it on the third Tuesday?
We can have whatever you want. Call your workshop as long as you advertise it. So,
I don't even mind doing it on a Thursday if,
As long as it,
yeah, it's just how it's always been done.
but if it's something that Wes doesn't need to be here for, then we can do that as long as it's not his policies, right?
Right, I just don't want you to look over and go, where's Bradshaw at?
Mm.
You know, and,
That's not interesting, is it?
right, and not know that that's why I'm not there.
Will you give us the dates that there'll be a conflict so we can?
Yes, ma'am. I would, if you don't mind, I'll give them the Spur Rocky and just have them email them to you. I've got a couple trials. Hopefully, the problem with trials is that Judge Thomas sets you on a 2-week trial calendar. And you don't know when you're gonna try your case until you get there. And if you walk in on Monday morning and she goes, you're the only one, so you're trying your case right now, or I've got 5 of them and you're trying yours next Thursday. So, you kind of get stuck. in those situations.
Um,
But the February one, I apologize, but we've got a due process hearing that's coming, it's not going away, so. All week.
February, you'll be gone all week, you said on that one?
On the February 24th week, or
Yeah.
whatever that week is, correct. But, the week before, I think I talked with Ms. Bertarami, it's like the
The
17th.
17th, does anybody have a problem with doing this 17th as a workshop, the Tuesday?
Now, that is the date of
That's
the,
the
Oh, that's, what about doing it the 19th?
PSCC.
the 19th of February?
Yeah. You have
I
something,
have
Sam?
a conflict on the 19th.
To the Education Foundation meeting, I have a doctor's appointment.
Okay.
Well, we can do Mr. Bradshaw's policies in
Well, there's another thing, what about March
the
3rd?
morning of the,
What about doing February, March is on March 3rd? Tuesday, March 3rd.
Well, I can't get to a calendar, so.
I can, I'm good on March 3rd.
Me too.
all of our, not me, but all of our staff will be gone up and
They will?
they're starting our staffing meetings at the schools.
Okay,
March 3rd.
then that won't work.
That, in fact, that entire week, probably week out.
Then what I'm thinking is what about, we keep our 24th workshop everything but the policies, because I think that's the only thing we can't do, and then what about doing the policies,
At the board meeting.
at the board meeting?
That's fine.
I mean, do you have any problem with that? Does anybody else see anything I'm missing?
The 24th of March, though, that's spring break, so I don't know how that,
We're not gonna have a workshop.
Yeah, we're not gonna do a workshop then.
what day were you just talking about? So we're-
24th February.
Board
Oh,
meeting.
okay. No problem.
Yeah, I'm talking on February. You're out then too? That's what I thought you were out then.
I am, I'm also out in March, April, May.
Yeah, we'll deal with those.
Right.
We'll find a time.
We'll find those, we'll work around you on that, Wes.
So, Mr. Chairman, so anticipating no workshop in March, is that what I'm hearing?
At this point, we're gonna anticipate none. What I'd like to see us do, if there's no objection, is you're gonna have staffing plans. Is that gonna be at the February
We're
workshop?
probably taking those off because we're just not getting ready to redo some.
Okay.
To bring them to you, so.
So budget update would be then?
Budget workshops, I'd like to start, February, go all the way through.
So we'd have budget that day, we'd have the CERMI update that day, we'd be able to do impact fees. We can't then do a closed session on security because Wes will be out. But we can do then our goal setting and our, well, we really can't do that one either.
You don't have to notice your security stuff, I mean, so we can do that.
That we may, I'll get with the superintendent and see whether we're able to do that with you all for February or March at the regular, even if we did it before a regular board meeting. Maybe we did it, at like a 1 o'clock hour or something on a regular board meeting day.
So if I may ask, so February we will have a workshop, nothing in March, April workshop, but May probably not a workshop either.
Right.
So budget.
Yeah, the only thing we may need to do though is that's what I've got to check, is we may have to do one, maybe we'll do a morning session on one of our board days.
So I can anticipate a budget workshop in February and April.
Correct.
And just, when speaking with Ms. Bertarami about this, I think last week, it's just those couple weeks, it's just the way the timing is, like, the second or the third Tuesdays, and that week's I'm generally open. So if
And-
you want to, instead of having your workshop on the fourth Tuesday, if you moved it a week before, on most of those months, I think I'm pretty good.
And I was gonna say, April, we can just, if there's no problem with that, why don't we just start planning for at least April to do it the third week? We could do it the third Thursday if we wanted to do it just a little later.
If I can't get online for
That
whatever
won't work for
reason,
me
it's
on
my
the
calendar,
fiscal
but I'll be.
meeting.
What about the Tuesday?
Tuesday's fine.
And the third Tuesday of April, and subject to Mr. Bradshaw's,
Unfortunately, I can't get
April
my
22nd.
server must be down in my office.
yeah, that would be April 21st, would be the workshop day.
I'm sorry, April 21st.
Okay, here's my dilemma.
That's okay.
Every third Tuesday morning is the administrator and principals meeting we have district-wide.
Oh, that's right. Well, what about, I mean, is there any reason we couldn't do it on a Wednesday?
We can do it in the
Oh, yeah, we can still do it in the afternoon, that's fine. Let's plan on March then,
Tuesday, the 21st in the afternoon?
yeah, starting at 1,
April 21st, 1 p.m.,
yeah.
okay?
Does that work, 1 p.m. work to get you guys administrative? Okay.
Then you're gonna have to
So
find all-
Chuck, if you, yeah, I'll put this back together between Miss Linda and I, but Chuck, if you then want to get with Duncan and them for the 24th of February.
February 24th, and you want it in the morning or the afternoon?
Do you guys, would you rather get it over with in the morning? I'm flexible, but
yes.
I was thinking,
And if he can't come, do you want, what would you want me to do if he's not available?
April 21st.
if he's not available, let's talk and then we'll
Go from there.
go from there.
What are we going to do about the impact fee? I mean, we're talking about having a workshop.
This is just a workshop, information workshop. There's no actions, there's no changes at this point. It's so that we have information on the 17th.
We haven't heard it since February of 2013.
Okay.
It's the last time the board listened to the presentation and looked at the study. And as I understand it, the Board of County Commissioners is having their workshop on February 17th. Their public hearing is tentatively scheduled for April 14th. So it would be good for the school board to have all of that information before the final adoption date, so you're up to speed and you can do whatever you want to do with it. But just so everybody's on the same page.
Now, the Board of County Commissioners already voted on the matter, right? So now they're doing their,
Well, what they voted on was a suspension.
okay.
But that suspension is good for 2 years, and so at which time it's going to come back to the, if the, whatever metric they choose to utilize to determine whether or not it's appropriate to bring back the impact fee, triggers a review in 2 years as to whether or not it's going to be re-implemented. And the study has to be up to date. In other words, it can't be out of date. And the study that they're looking at right now, that they're proposing to adopt in April, would be the study that would be in place when the fees come back. And it would still be good for 3 years.
And there would be an ordinance change as part of this, is that not?
Right, it would be an updated, they're considering a number of items as part of the impact fee ordinance. One is that the fees would be able to be used for 10 years instead of 7 years, which would give us a little more time to utilize our fees. When growth comes back, we'll have money still left that we can utilize. Some of our monies that we have in the trust fund right now are 5 years old. As soon as the Floral City project is complete, that will eliminate the 5th year, so they'll be 4 years old. So we'll have 6 years to go in the time period before those fees have to be utilized if the county approves the 10 years. So there's a number of things that Mr. Mullen, Clancy Mullen, would be able to enlighten you on as far as the history of impact fees, what's going on around the state, and the nuances, if you will, of the ordinance and how it affects the future collection of impact fees, and how they're, one of the things that's being talked about is whether or not there needs to be a Board of County Commissioner resolution every time fees are expended, which would make it much more difficult for us to, take a lot longer for us to get things, to get impact fees reimbursement to a project. So things like that, the board needs to be up to speed on.
Can there be a redefinition of what an impact fee is, an expansion of making it smaller? Or is it state mandated, this is an impact fee, and this is what you did?
Well, an impact fee has to be based on the actual impact, and it goes to cover the costs that are quantifiable with a given impact to public infrastructure. So the report, the study that the consultant prepares justifies everything, looks at all the data, lays out the framework for how it's determined what the fee actually is. And then within that framework, the county commissioners determine how it's collected, whether it's collected at 100%, whether it's collected at 50%, whether it's collected at a lower percentage, whether it's suspended and not collected at all, but re-implemented at a future date. What they've done basically is they've stayed on course with the impact fee update with the study, but in the meantime, they suspended the collection of impact fees effective February 1. So there won't be any impact fees collected after February 1. There'll still be funds in the account that have been collected to date, and there's still the study that has to be updated for when the suspension is over.
Looking at right now, it's new construction, there was a definition that said, well, not only new construction, but a family moving into the house that's already there has an impact, therefore impact fees also cover that when they've never been paid before.
Well, they actually have been paid before. In theory, they're paid when the house comes online, and they're for a 50-year life of basically. They, an impact fee is presumably paid on those homes when they're built. When they change hands, it's not paid again. It's only paid once.
Right, but it's like, what, 1984 was the first time?
Right, and there are homes that were built before that,
Oh, many.
and there'll be homes built during the suspension that don't pay.
But could they redefine the language having to do with, for example, ours talks about capacity increasing infrastructure, and then it lists.
You can limit it, you can make the language more limiting, and that's the kind of information that the consultant can really provide. How it has to be justified, whatever the impact fee is, whatever methodology is used. There are some impact fee formulas that include a lot of credits for things, and some impact fee formulas that don't include a lot of credits, and it depends on the jurisdiction, and how I can assure you though that the report that Duncan has prepared is very conservative. There's not a whole lot in there that would make the impact fee higher. The impact is definitely what that report says it is, or more. It's not less. There are some jurisdictions that push the envelope and charge a really high impact fee. We've never done that here. Our impact fee is relatively low, considering, if you look at Seminole County, for example, they at one point were charging $2,000 per unit for impacts, across the board for all the fees. We've never done that here. We've always tried to be on the conservative side, and our fee in particular, the school board fee, is collected at 50% of what the consultant says that the true impact is. So that's even another buffer in there, if you will, that it's not excessive.
And those are things that we can have brought back up and discussed during that workshop.
I think it would be excellent for the board, particularly Mr. Dodd, to hear Clancy Mullins, because he is an expert on impact fees. There's only a handful of firms, national firms, that do impact fee studies, and Duncan is right up there with the top. He's done impact fees for Hawaii and a lot in Florida and all over the United States, Atlanta. He could explain to you, what the big picture is for your benefit.
So for the superintendent, is there any need, or do we need to have any presence at any of these Board of County Commissioner workshops, or I don't know if Chuck goes, or are there any
Chuck
plan
has
there?
attended some of them.
Right, and they have
And
two.
usually when there's a conversation going on about impact fees, Chuck has attended. And really, if the board ever wants to continue to send somebody, that's.
Right.
We can do that.
The issue in the past that we've had, Doug, is that we send Chuck, or we've sent the chair, we've sent the board even as a whole at one time, and each time has resulted in more and more and more of a reduction in what we've asked for. So that's been a little bit of a challenge to say, I'm almost afraid at this point to send anybody emails. You know, I mean, are we gonna start having to pay them for, no, I mean, but one thing, Doug, that I think is important, that Hernando County, when they did a moratorium, they did not do a study, and they got their study outside of their moratorium, and so then they had to go back, and there became a little bit of a struggle between the county commission and the school board of who was gonna fund it, how it was gonna get paid, so they couldn't even begin the process of putting it back till they had worked that out. That's one of the reasons why I would say that it would be advantageous for us to have them pass the study, because at least keeps that mechanism in place so that we haven't kind of thrown the baby out with the bathwater. Now, they're talking about expanding that to a 5-year
Right, that would
instead
make
of a
this
3-year.
last a lot longer and save money because you wouldn't have to go back every 3 years and do a study. In this county, it takes like 2 or 3 years just to do the study. You know, from the time it starts to the time it actually gets adopted. You know, because last time the school board heard the study that's being done was February of 2013, and it was a year before that when it started. So it's already, 2 years into this thing. And if it gets adopted, then it's good for 5 years, and then the suspension's lifted in 2 years, it'll still be good for 3 years.
Ms. Bryant?
I respectfully disagree with you. I'm not afraid.
I'm sorry.
I would like a presence. I would like somebody from the school board sitting there. You don't have to get up, you don't have to say anything, but I want them to know we are still here.
And I would suggest to send a school board member, because really, school board members are the ones who vote, and the commissioners are the ones who vote on the final decision.
And certainly,
I mean, I'm okay
certainly
with
Chuck
that.
be there, but
Right.
it certainly should be a school board member because of that very
Agreed.
thing, we're the ones who voted.
Because Chuck's got that knowledge of all.
And I think if we,
Wes is not, even though I'm sure it'd be very, very good vote, but he's not, so.
and if one of us are there, it's probably gonna be asked for one of us to speak. And having gone to the last meeting and not have a firm opinion of what we were asking from them, I think that, I would say if we do have representation there, we need to give a defined message as to what that is. Because otherwise, I don't know that we're saying anything to them.
Historically, we've said we just want to be treated the same way as the other county departments, and, that pretty much is where we've left it. I mean, I think that's a reasonable approach.
Mhm.
And I feel very comfortable with Duncan and Associates and their report. I mean, I don't have any concerns about the accuracy or validity of their report.
Oh, not at all, I would like for them to expand on the idea of definitions of impact fees from their experience across.
The state has actually looked at something about real estate transfer fees, what you're talking about, in lieu of impact fees or in addition to impact fees, and that didn't go very far for whatever reason, because the impact has already been paid by the impact fee, so to add another fee where you pay when you transfer real estate and documentary stamps or something like that, that wasn't considered to be acceptable to when they considered
And
that.
I'm just thinking about the impact of, as I mentioned before, of one group, say family of 5 children. That's a bigger impact than a retired one person who builds a house. And how can we make equality here? How can we?
Well, there are some provisions in the current ordinance for age-restricted communities. If you live in a place that's age-restricted, then you don't pay any school impact fee. So, but there's no other provision in the existing ordinance for residential. You pay the fee. And one thing you have to keep in mind is it goes for 50 years of the life of the home, and if it's not age-restricted, if you look at a community like Beverly Hills, that was sold as a retirement community in the 70s and early 80s, and it is no more. It's our highest student population.
And so the people are moving into the homes in Beverly Hills. There, although they have a great impact on us, there was no fee they paid to do so.
not when they moved in, but when the houses were built, they were built after 1984 or whatever.
Like
they
a very low amount of money.
But that's kind of why it's important to be consistent with how you administer the impact fees and not, change, have some pay and some not pay. It's better to be consistent in how it's administered over the years so people
Oh,
don't.
yeah, but I think you have to begin with the definition of what you're doing at the beginning.
And I think that Mr. Mullen, Clancy Mullen's presentation, he can answer those kind of questions for you.
I was over in Orlando a little bit ago when the impact fees came in over there, so I have a memory of all of that occurred there.
Okay, I'll check on his availability on that date and we'll go from there.
Okay, thank you. Really, we're just down to the Florida School Board Association Conference overview. And anyone can jump right in. I think a lot of us went to some of the same ones,
We all went to the ethics.
and we all went to the ethics. I got my diploma, or the...
Got my certificate.
And I wondered why couldn't we just do that within the county? Why do we have to go to the school board? They were doing a lot, they pay like $295.
Yeah, they charge for it. We're now they're rolling it into the other, but where you can do it virtually. It's a great question.
Why you can't do it in the county?
Yeah, why don't you do it? First, we do a workshop for us.
4 hours.
Yeah, I wonder if it,
Oh, look, I mean, I don't think there's a restriction on it. I think that we had a discussion amongst the school board attorneys at one point in time. It was easy to provide this class at the FCA conference.
Yeah.
Because number one, you capture more people and it's once a year to be able to do it. But I don't think there's probably not a restriction. I'll check on that.
Because we can
Yeah.
do it on a Friday for obvious reasons, since people come early and stay all the way through Friday. But it'd be much more beneficial.
would-
We could ask a lot more questions if we could do it.
that's a good question
Can I
to.
pick the venue?
No.
As long as we notice it. I will say I was not overly impressed with Katie Haycock from the Educational Trust, the speaker.
The men's.
Yeah,
Oh, my gosh.
I found myself getting more angry the more I listened to her, so.
And you-
I missed it, okay? I missed everything except.
Oh,
the
that's
ethics.
right.
I missed it, so you'll have to tell me.
And we kept asking ourselves, what state is this person speaking about? All the stats are saying, everything's, just going down that way. And then, of course, she came back and said, but Florida is. But when she began initially, he thought, this is not the state of Florida. What are you talking about? We were getting angry
Yep.
at the point of almost walking out because it sounded like we were being accused of things we couldn't do.
And kind of, yeah, reprimanding us. I don't know if
Yes.
if you not necessarily her, just anything on the thing. That's not to put her on her.
Yeah, I mean, I thought there was a lot of good information. Obviously, that's my first time attending one of these meetings, so, it was a lot of good information.
Go
I
downhill
was,
from here.
I was, I think I've said this publicly in some other meetings. I've scratched my head there a little bit after, hearing all the school board members and some of the superintendents having the issue with the Department of Education and some of the things that's going on with the curriculum and graduation requirements and those things. That, how did we get to this point, and I'm hoping that what they said holds true, that the legislative session this year is going to have a big focus on education. That's what we were led to believe, right? I mean, the 3 senators that were there, obviously, are a big part of that. And so I am hoping very much so that this legislative session is one that addresses the issues with testing.
Was Bill Mumford there?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And as always, he was.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're right, Doug. That's what. Just hope they don't overcorrect. Yeah.
I was interested, as I said, after we came back in that first meeting, in regards to having a procedure in place for the board as far as agenda items, and I know we talked a little bit about that, having a time on that, and I know, Mr. Thomas, as the chairperson, Thomas said that you would look at,
February was when we were planning it,
right,
but I need to have Wes
Yeah.
there.
and that's
That's
fine.
what, so that, yeah. Because that was when I had that planned.
Right. So I think that just as long as we still address that at some point.
We need to.
Yeah.
We need to. And it's not just that, it's those many things that you as a new board member went over that, and you know, we talk about, they're not things we worry about when we're all kind of just moving along and everything's going and we work together, but it's, then usually it becomes a problem when we don't. Let's deal with it now, let's just
Right.
address it, work through it. And, did anybody go to to legal hot topics? One of Wes's counterparts is also a Wes, from Polk County. And what I like about
And an Auburn
him,
graduate.
and he's an Auburn graduate.
Fine individual.
It's neat because Polk County, even though they're larger, they are very similar, I think, in a lot of the cultural similarities that we have and address in Citrus. So they just have a larger number of students, and so the things he's dealing with, to me, he's a little bit of the canary. If they're happening in Polk County, we might get them here, particularly the legal happenings. This one was on transgender and how to address it and different issues. And I have to say, common sense was playing a big role in what he talked about. And I would say this district, I was very pleased with that entire issue because I know as we've dealt with things, common sense, I think, has played a good role here. And a lot of the things he was saying districts to do, I would say that those are the common sense ways we're handling things. Just trying to see here what other,
I did meet one young man in the new board member session, and that was a gentleman named Mark Dodd from Lake County.
oh, cool,
He was elected, he's a new school board member, no relation.
that's neat.
Yeah.
I will tell you, even now, it was like when I got there, I floated towards a lot of the, people that I first went to new board training with, and, you kind of feel like you're going through that process with them, so.
And you were asked to send information to other board members, did you get a chance to do that about the calendar, I think we wanted to copy the calendar?
Yes, I had others, a lot of different things that board members, Citrus County, Ms. Powers and I attended the chairman training, and again, we're pretty blessed because over and over, things that Citrus does and has been doing, a lot of them they're just talking about starting, and this was one of them. I mean, they don't have anything like this. And so, yeah, we sent that to them. We had some other policy things that we've been dealing with, or that we've dealt with that they were doing. So definitely, by the way, one thing, and Patrick's probably gone, but the Save Our Summers issue, I saw it, and Ginger, that was talking about having to do with the calendar start date and trying to deal with what's going to happen with that. We've been able to exempt ourselves because of our high-performing status, but there's definitely other districts that still keep trying to find a way to address that. PICO money, since the time they talked about this, they talked about the PICO money. There's some money maybe coming back, but then we saw 100 million, or now they're being talked about to go to charter schools.
I think it's 100 million coming to public, 150 going to charter. I think it, once again, the lion's share.
It was hard to say goodbye to Wayne. That was, and I think you all probably got notice that Wayne, that they have now, are putting the committee together of what that position will look like.
Wayne was at our FISBIT meeting,
Was he?
And he's going to be serving in a
Consultant.
consultant capacity to FISBIT,
Okay.
He's getting married February 14th.
and he's getting married.
Was that Paula's position?
Yeah.
Did they get rid of Paula?
She retired.
Paula and Wayne grew up together, I think.
Really?
Forever.
Chipley or something.
Yeah, Chipley.
Oh,
Okay.
That was all I had. And anybody else have
I
anything?
noticed something that's been coming with our emails from FSBA. You know, you have complained, but have voiced your opinion that there need to be some definite things that we were sent, more information on legislation, more information on whatever was happening in education that we weren't getting. And I've noticed in the emails lately, we're beginning to get that. So maybe your voicing of your opinion helped quite a bit, because now you feel like you have something you can work with, some information you can actually read and research instead of doing it all yourself, so. that was good
I
to
don't know
see.
if it was me, but I'm glad seeing it. I don't think it was me. I think it's just glad seeing it.
Well, I'm very, very pleased with it. And I think FSBA is beginning to look a little bit more, like for instance, there's a committee always on diversity, but the definition of diversity is so narrow.
Mhm.
And now I think it's been expanded where you include people who maybe believe in a totally different system, and you're working with people who, you're in democracy, they totally believe in totalitarianism. That's diversity, and you have to, if that's in your school system, you have to deal with that. So I think they're broadening the definition of what diverse means and then addressing those issues. And again, it's all of your comments, but thank you.
No, and thank you, Ms. Ginger, for, letting us have that seat at the table and getting the resolution passed. It was very similar to Citrus County's resolution. The Board of Directors passed it. They did not need to ratify it, evidently, with the body. Doug, did you get a chance to go to the full FSBA?
Yes.
I mean, okay. Because it's kind of the closest thing that we probably have to like a legislative
Yes.
type session. It's a interesting, that one wasn't too bad, but that one definitely had some excitement at it. I was just looking here of what other notes I had. Anybody have anything else to share? Well, anything else?
I mean, this.
This or anything else?
Okay. I think most of the things that we were talking about scheduling, we've either, like the input policy and the advertising policy, all that, we're rescheduling some of it, so
Mhm.
those were some of my questions. Did want to mention that, did want to mention that I went over to Everett's Middle School, observed Alice Rawls' science class, and observed the use of the iPads and that sort of stuff at
I
Alice.
thought you were checking out the traffic over there.
Do that too, I think. But I learned quite a bit, and compared to the way things were done, because I worked there, and I certainly went to analysis class many times, and the way it's doing now, same flow, same beat, same, quality of instruction, everything else, and just a little added ability to work with some instruction materials and media, but really, really going well. Science fair there, which I had mentioned before, was stupendous. And I went to Hernando Elementary School yesterday on their SAC committee, and they were talking about science fair too. And it just really was at a high level this year. I found it was. I went to a science fair that was really at a high level, so I mentioned that. I was at Chris River High School yesterday. Chris River High School was running a tight ship. They were giving out grants, and I'm telling you, the grants that were reported on, it was like a master's thesis oral defense. They were very good, and they were able to spend like $12,000 that they had from past monies and present monies on super things. And one particular teacher really was so happy for him, and two teachers actually, and her. They used to go around when he was testing and turn over individually, every single computer. 250 computers had to individually turn on for an hour and a half to 2 of them. And he found a program which just in one computer, and they all go on, so
Oh, that's
about a minute and a half.
great.
Oh, I tell you, that was wonderful. They funded the program without any discussion at all. I think Chuck you sent the letter to the transportation department already, so that was cleared out. I'm just following up on the
Yeah,
things
no,
that we're
yep.
doing. And closed session's coming up. We just did the FSBA. Oh, I went over and, let me ask you, the MGT study. It's going to all the board members. Is that been mailed out?
Can we get just a copy of the most recent one?
Sure, I think you sent it to you, Mr. Dodd, already, now Mr. Burkhardt did.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe we just send it to the rest
I
of
could
us.
just-
Yeah, just forward it to the rest of us.
That's super. And I went over to the middle school, Crystal River Middle School, and Ms. Bishop was actually taking me around to see the Excel program, which was very similar at a higher scale to the advisee programs that they had a lot more activity. The one that was at Everest Middle School, and now this one's really expanded, a lot of things going on. It was fascinating, and this discipline there was incredible. I didn't see a single student, maybe one, who turned around, talked to a friend, but who was off task. They were on task doing whatever they were doing. It was art, it was PE, it was math, whatever they were doing, they were on task. One was cooking, they even cooked something for us. Came running out and gave us some eclairs. That's pretty
Oh,
good.
those are good, I've been on that thing.
But it was really a fun activity. You know, like, right, so.
Ms. Powers, I will tell you, most of the teachers over there, the ones I've talked to, love the program. They like the different students and just a change of pace for them, so. Big for big things.
Oh, it was very interesting. And back to Crystal River High School, I'm trying to think of the grant, the big grant, I won't say when, but it was about mentoring the ninth grade students. But anyhow, they are sending a couple more teachers out to get trained in that. It's a program in which the ninth grade students have a friend, and they have activities, and they know the school, if they have an issue, they know who to go to. As far as the student will direct them to the person on staff, and they'll, get used to it, but as ninth graders, you're not used to that sort of thing. So that was a really good program.
You're talking about the LINK program?
Link, thank you very much. But I will say, tightly organized school, I really enjoyed their meetings. And that's all.
If there's nothing else, then we are adjourned.